All right, so here's the I'm going to frame this properly. I really think if you, the owner, are content with your recruiting, this call might not be for you. Like if you're content, if you're like, listen, man, I got more than enough. I'm living in an abundant world right now. I don't know if this call is going to add a lot of value to you. However, if you're one of those individuals, and listen, the majority of owners, I don't think, are content with their recruiting. They want more. Owners want more. I want more seconds. I want more new starts. Well, then I think this call might give you a little something might add another tool to your tool chest here. And so at Keys in the consultant meeting, I remember JP just sort of nonchalantly, I had to follow up with him because he was talking about, well, listen, I just want to inspect my recruiter because everybody's talking about how recruiting's so difficult, in this post-pandemic world here. He's like, I just started booking and calling people myself. And then he got some very interesting results. And so really, before I pass this on to JP, I just want to say this. If you're prepared to do an interview, right? I mean, I just think of all the thousands of interviews I've done over the years. I'm ready to do an interview. Oh, but I've got a no call, no show. We all have this happen. You've got a scheduled window of time. I'm about to do an interview with this sharp guy, and this guy's a no call, no show. My question is, what do you now do with that free time? And so my suggestion, and I think JP is going to give us some great suggestions, since you've already got your recruiting brain on, right? You're ready to grow your business. That's the mindset you have walking into this interview. Well, now the interview's not there. Keep that hat on, keep those glasses on, if you will, and maybe let's find a blessing in disguise that the guy was a no call, no show. And in the time being, you may actually pull 5, 6, 7 more people and end up getting somebody sharper than what you would have had. That's kind of what I'm hoping. So again, JP kind of took the law into his own hands. I asked him to hop on today's call and share some of what he's doing with you guys. If you don't know JP's story, I mean, actually maybe JP will give you a quick introduction, but obviously, slouch in the business, you're a consultant, you know what you're doing. So give us kind of just a quick intro and then just dive right into what you're doing, because I think it's very fascinating.
Yeah, so thanks, Jamie. So grew up in Alabama, played college football, been in the business for 17 total years, 15 running my business. Did get promoted to consultant right before the pandemic happened. So we were all maskless in my promotion pictures, and then 2 months later we were quarantined. So got in there right before the COVID happened. But have ups and downs in the business, and I wouldn't say I'm where I want to be at in the business right now, but that's one of the things that I'm taking into my own hands and gonna change that for myself as well. So first and foremost, Jamie, appreciate you having me on the call. And I'll sort of get into things. So first, I've got 5 bullet points I'm going to cover with you guys. And I think this wasn't one of my bullet points, but Jamie, you kind of hit the nail on the head there as far as like using that time you already have allocated towards recruiting. If you're doing Zoom prelims for an hour and a half and you're seeing that you have a couple of cancels or whatever the case may be, you can easily use that time to recruit during that time. It's like that is your quote unquote recruiting time period. So it doesn't have to you don't have to add a lot to your schedule to be able to do these things. And sometimes you don't even have to add it at all. You just use the time you already have allocated. Okay. So the first bullet point I want to tell you guys a quick story. I went fishing with one of my guys. Does anyone on the call like fishing? I can only see 9 people. So Gareth, you like fishing. Okay. So went fishing with my guy, Ben. He's a stud and he likes to fish. He took me one of his spots and he was fishing with some spinner bait. And I brought my son second, 2 or 3 times he's been fishing, but we had some worms, some live worms. So we baited a live worm for him. And of course he doesn't have a lot of patience for fishing right now. And I was like, well, if he's fishing with a worm and Ben's fishing with a spinner bait, I'm going to fish with a jig. I'm going to sort of see, what's biting, right? And I was talking smack to Ben a little bit earlier because I caught 2 fish that day and he didn't catch any, you know? So my point being is I think a lot of times we could be fishing with the wrong lure. Okay. And what I mean by that, we all use database and things like that, but if you're on Indeed or if you're on or have ways to get Indeed, if you or whatever job board you're on, this just happened to me recently. I'm in Nashville and I'm sharing office with another person in Nashville who has got the kind of lockdown on one resource that I have. But I had to ruffle the fellow, the leaves and the limbs of this guy, and I'm like, hey, bro, like we got to change these ads up. I'm not flying with these ads. I was getting all customer service people. I don't want people that want to sit in a call center. I want people that wanted to sell, you know, and literally just that change I did last week, kind of getting in those trenches and figuring that out. I can dramatically see the difference of the quality of people I'm having at my resources. So sometimes it's not even your recruiter's fault. Maybe it's not even your fault that you're not getting the people you want in your business. It may be just your job ad's fault or the resources that you do have. So I would first look at that, see if you're fishing with the right lure. Okay. The second thing I would say as far as your recruiting goes, and I know there's multiple philosophies on recruiting. I'm kind of old school. I had a full-time recruiter. She ended up leaving the business. I had 2 full-time recruiters. And I did my own recruiting for a little while because I just wanted to get in the trenches and see what was going on. And I ended up hiring a part-time recruiter, which I have now. And I sort of fill in the blanks where she doesn't. I don't need a ton of recruiting right now, but I need good people. So I would recommend getting on the phones and seeing what your recruiter's going through. That's why I knew that those ads were not good. So many times in the business where I didn't have the recruiting I wanted, and the knee-jerk response we have as owners is to go like, hey, why are we not getting good people? Like, what's going on? Why is your retention suck? Whatever the case may be. But it may just be the fact that they're not getting the right resources, or you haven't experienced that yourself. Okay, so I would try doing the job first to see what's going on with your recruiter and what's going on with your recruiting period. Okay. The third thing I would say is like, I think it's important. I think a lot of people use Applicant Starter. I think knowing how to navigate around Applicant Starter is imperative. I know how to do everything on Applicant Starter. I know how to change the back office emails. I know how to change the tabs. I know how to send emails. I know how to do all the things on Applicant Starter that is necessary to communicate with applicants. And I think that's something that, you know, is important to do to dig into that recruiting as well. The fourth thing I want to cover with you guys is we've all been in the field, from business to retail to residential, whatever campaign you guys are on. So Gareth, you know, you were on B2B for the longest time. I can't remember what you're on now, but could you possibly lose a sale in the field by your new person screwing up the intro and short story?
Sure.
Absolutely. The intro and short story of our business is our recruiter calling that person. Now, I grew up on B2B. I grew up on business to business, and it actually was harder to lose on the intro and short story on B2B because you're already in their business. So if your new person screwed up the pitch, you were able to still step in and save that, you know, try to get back in there. On residential, if you guys are in any residential campaigns, you don't have that luxury. I mean, if someone screws up the intro and short story, the customer's closing the door before he can even get in there, and you just lost that potential customer. So you had to make sure your new rep knew how to do their intro and short story at least enough to be able to get through that. Okay, so in the recruiting world, our intro and short story is our recruiter calling those people. And we definitely, after me doing recruiting myself, I definitely saw, I'm like, holy crap, there's no telling how many good people I've lost just because my recruiter didn't explain the business properly, or they didn't build a good enough rapport, they didn't take control, all those things that we know from the field already. And these people never even came into my business, you know? So I would recommend just like, either if you have a recruiter working on that, if you think about doing this, it's just a different way to think of the recruiting cycle. And then the last thing I would say is the fifth bullet point I have is how could you impact your business by hopping on the phones and booking for an hour a day? Okay. I did this. I was wanting to read you guys a communication. if your recruiter is not competitive, they're probably not going to do that well in recruiting, in my opinion. So I started getting on the phones and I started talking smack to my recruiter. Let me see where it was. Oh yeah, here it is. I said, okay, I said, you thought you could beat me. And I said, I booked 4 seconds for tomorrow. What are you rolling with? She said, oh, and then I said, oh, okay, I see you. She said, take a look. So then we're sending these gifts back and forth where I'm like watching her, and then I'm like, she's like, bring it. And I was like, oh, it's already been brought, you know? So like, I think it's fun. It makes it fun. You're not overstepping the boundaries with like trying to take that from them. It's not a penalty or anything like that. But just, I went in there, so I booked 6 of the seconds that we've had this week, I personally booked. Okay. And multiple of those have been second round interviews that we're going to be offering or have already offered. So I think that now I haven't like cracked the code on the whole business. And, you know, I wouldn't say I've, you know, done that, but I think that if you're not, like Jamie said, if you're not happy with recruiting or you want to make an impact, I think this is something you could do that would potentially add some, you know, revenue to your business, and honestly, you can recruit the people you want to work with anyway.
Yeah, and what's interesting, if I could interject here, just listening to you before on like, well, you know, you've got somebody that you like on the phone, you're the owner. It's not like you're going to book them in for a first round interview. You're basically doing the prelim at the time of the call. There's no point to having a prelim interview. That is the prelim. And you're booking a high probability straight to second. Like, talk about giving your guys a layup. I mean, that's just, I mean, so that's kind of a popular term, that whole book straight to second. I don't know if I really want my recruiter booking straight to second. I mean, I want to do that prelim, but if you, the owner, are pulling the resume and you're booking straight to second, man, you have just really increased your odds all the way through the pipeline. So any thoughts with that whole book straight to second?
Yeah, I was out of town for a week at a forum meeting, and I had my recruiter book straight to second just because I didn't have anyone else to do prelims at the time, and it didn't go well. So I can tell you that from firsthand that it's had to. Now, if you have a more experienced recruiter, maybe that would work, but I don't necessarily agree with that either. So, but yes, the kind of thing, that conversation I have, and if you want me to go through what I say on the phone, it's not very much. I can do it, Jamie. But after I end my conversation with that person, I'm saying, listen, normally, Jamie, we have an initial interview. I do those anyway. I was like, so there's really no point in us doing that. I enjoyed our conversation. I want to go ahead and book you in. And I don't even say second interview, because I think we just use that term. They don't know what a second interview is, you know? I enjoyed our conversation. I want to go ahead and do a face-to-face interview with you. What's your schedule like tomorrow? I'm open. Oh, cool. So let's do this. I'm going to have you come in at 11:30 tomorrow. We'll do a face-to-face interview. I'm going to send you an email. I give them tips on the office, how to get in. And then I've already said this day, I've now closed the sales cycle down at least a day by getting that person to come in and meet with me the face-to-face the next day. Where if my recruiter booked them, they would have to book them for prelim the next day. Then I would do that prelim, and then I'm punting that in for another 24 hours at least. So you can close your sales cycle down by at least a day by, you know, doing that little bit of impact. So what I'll do is if we get some Indeed ads, I honestly, if I'm going to recruit, I go cherry pick the Indeed ads. You know, I go look through who they got. So just the other day, I called, this is no joke, I called 6 people and I booked 5 of them for second round interviews. And sharp people tend to call back. If you look at a resume, sharp people, like if you're, you know, the people we don't want in our business are usually the ones that, you know, don't ever call back, but the sharp people usually call back.
How long did that take you to book the?
I mean, I don't know, 30 minutes. It's like, yeah, I mean, 30, 45 minutes maybe. I mean, if you looked at all the time that I did it, it was 30, 45 minutes tops. And all those people didn't answer immediately, because I was actually, this is what happened. To your point, Jamie, this is exactly what happened. It was on Tuesday. Okay, on Tuesday, I went in, had my top guy come in, because we do virtual on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I had him come in because we were doing a face-to-face second. And I wanted him to do it. And the girl didn't show up. Okay. So I'm like, okay, well, we have some extra time. I'm going to show you how to recruit. I had 20 Indeed ads. I started sifting through them. Like, we're going to cherry pick these guys. I wrote them down because I didn't really have time to like move them into the system yet. We just started blasting the phones. And then I wrote down 6 people that I called, and I ended up talking to 5 of them. I'm sorry, booking 5 of them.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, like a blessing in disguise. I mean, the girl doesn't show up, you know, and all of a sudden you get some superstar because you went aggressively and booked yourself and made some, you pulled and called. Yeah, I mean, and you already got that recruiting hat on, so why not keep it on?
And they love it. People like talking to the owner of the business. I mean, those two. I mean, we know how to sell too. I mean, we know how to exude confidence. We know how to build rapport. We know how to take control, all those things. I just had a girl. This is another thing. I had a girl today. I loved this girl. She was awesome. And it was actually, oh yeah, this is the other thing I want to touch on, Jamie. So since I did that this week, my recruiter, guess what she's been doing? She's been crushing the recruiting. Like today I had 6 studs on Zoom prelims, 6 studs, 5 of which I booked for second round interviews. One was just overqualified, super cool dude. He was overqualified for what we do. And that just goes to show, like, when you show a recruiter, hey, I can do this. You know, it's not like I can do it without you kind of thing. It's like, I can do this, and you make it fun, not just like, they get the drift. They know that when you come in there and show them how to do, it's like a new rep making excuses about a territory, and you go out there and show them how to make it happen, and they can't say anything else. But what I was saying is, this girl Caitlin, she came on. She's had a little small business of her own. Love this girl. Then I noticed on the calendar, because I check Applicant Starter, I noticed she's canceled. I'm like, wait a minute, this girl just sent me an email thanking me for the opportunity, and she looks forward to meeting me tomorrow. I thought my recruiter had it wrong. So I text my recruiter. I was like, hey, did you accidentally cancel Caitlin's interview for tomorrow? And she's like, no, she called me. I'm like, damn it. So I was like, I'm calling her. So I called her. I'm like, hey, Caitlin. And she was like, hey, Jonathan. I'm like, hey, how'd you know that was me? She was like, so we had this conversation, and she was giving me these reasons why. So long story short, her husband's about to get deployed in a month. It's going to be gone for 9 months. She didn't want to accept a position and then have to take off 2 or 3 weeks. Then she also read a review that I was able to cover with her that wasn't accurate. And she had like 2 or 3 things that were concerning her about the position. Oh, and she's finishing up school. I'm like, listen, I can be flexible with your schedule. I was like, all the things that she said, I said, listen, I'm not trying to talk you into coming in for the interview. I said, I just really enjoyed the conversation with you. Not many people that I talk to have an entrepreneurial spirit. Then you've already ran a business of your own. I was like, I wanted to meet you, you know? I said, then I closed her. I'm like, so what are you going to do about the interview tomorrow? She's like, I'll come in. I want to meet you. I'm like, exactly. That's what I was thinking. You know, I'd say that. But so I think that just having that visibility to your recruiting cycle, and don't be afraid to call those people that happen to cancel, and maybe they have misinformation.
That's
That's
great,
awesome.
JP. Now,
Thank
I
you.
think some owners kind of shy away from it because, well, listen, I don't pull resumes. I'm not that familiar with Applicant Starter. What would you say to the owner that's just like, listen, that's just not my wheelhouse. Now, take me to the field. I'll show you how to close all day long. I mean, that's my wheelhouse, but I'm not really overly trained in recruiting. What would you say?
Well, 2 things. I'll answer this 2 different ways. One is, I think that, and I touched on this in our consultant meeting, and again, I think there's different opinions. If you ask 10 different consultants, they may have a different opinion about it. But I think there's a kind of an epidemic in our business where we don't teach our future owners recruiting, you know? And I think that it's a bigger picture than just you doing recruiting. I'm sorry, none of us are over recruiting. You know, I mean, that is our business. That's our lifeline of our company. If I'm a consultant and I'm hopping on the phones recruiting people, in fact, it's actually fun, you know? So I think it's bigger than just you doing it. I think it's the example you're setting for your future owners to know how to do recruiting. You know, if I have to hire a new recruiter, I don't want to have to pawn her off to some other recruiter I don't know that well. I want to do that with training myself. I want to train my own recruiter. And if you know how to recruit, you know how to do that yourself. So if you don't at this stage of the game, just have your recruiter train you, you know? And I think an owner's pitch is going to be different than a recruiter's pitch as well. So I think you're gonna touch on it. It's a little bit different flavor. So I think I answered your question, Jamie. But I would just say you got to dig in there and do it. I think that you could try to figure out Applica Starter or have someone show you, and someone showing you is going to save you, 90% time there.
Yeah, agreed.
Ricardo, do you have a question?
Yeah, Ricky Bobby's got a question. I see you, Ricky.
Yeah. How long typically do you take on the phone call, since it's more like a prelim rather than a recruiting call?
I mean, I think there'll be some value, Jamie, if you're okay with it. I can role play with you, Jamie, if you want to do that.
Go for it. I mean, I might be a 110, but go for it.
All right, so you're just gonna have to make up some of the stuff as far as like, so cool. So answer your phone, Jamie, please.
Hello.
Hey, is this Jamie?
This is he.
Hey, Jamie, it's Jonathan calling from Sky Inc. here in Nashville. How are you doing?
Good. Where are you calling from?
Sky Inc. Here in Nashville. How are you having a good day?
I'm having a great day. Yes.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, listen, I want to give you a call. I got a chance to take a look at your resume. I want to ask you a few questions. Do you have a second?
Sure.
Awesome. Well, I see you're currently working at, I'm just going to make it so I see you working at Target now. Okay. So what has you looking for a new position, Jamie?
I just don't know if I have a future at Target.
Yeah. So it looks like you've been working there for about 4 years though. So it seems like it's a pretty good fit for a while, right?
Yeah. I mean, great environment. There's not a lot of room to move up.
I got you. Good stuff. You're looking for somewhere you can move up, advance to the company, things like that. Okay,
Yes.
Cool. Now, I also see that you went to Vanderbilt. And you studied the HOD degree. So that's pretty awesome, man. I know a couple of people that have gone to Vanderbilt as well. So I may make a couple of references about the resume. Well, listen, so Jamie, obviously you're looking for advancement. Is there anything else you're looking for in a position?
Advancement and just a better energy environment. Just a place I'd like to wake up in the morning and be excited to go to.
Awesome, man.
A little bored at Target.
I get it. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, Jamie, let me kind of give you the Cliff Notes version of what we do here at Sky. Okay. So first and foremost, this is my business. I started it 15 years ago here in Nashville. Okay. So one of the unique things about our business model is we only promote from within, and our goal ultimately is to get people into management positions within our company. But what we don't do is we don't hire people exteriorly from the company to come in and manage our businesses. Okay. So what we do is we bring everyone in, we're going to train them in sales and marketing, leadership, onboarding and training new employees, pretty much everything that's encompassed in managing a firm like this, they're going to learn within the parameters of the business. So once a person does get into management, they know every aspect of the company. Okay. So I know that's kind of a brief explanation, Jamie, but I got 2 questions for you. One, with the proper training, is that something you feel like you could do? And 2, does that sound like something you'd be interested in?
Yes. I mean, I manage a small crew here at Target, around 3 people. I'm the supervisor. So yes, I'd love a leadership role. I enjoyed it in college, and I certainly enjoy it here at Target.
Cool. Well, I know and this is my question I'll edit this based off if I see specific sales experience with a person or if I don't. Now, if he's at Target, he's worked there for 4 years, in my opinion, I don't really think that's sales. But so I'll say to him, I'm like, hey, so I know Target, obviously there's probably some facet of sales there. Have you ever done like formal sales before?
No.
No. Okay. Well, how do you feel? I mean, do you feel like if you were trained properly, you could do sales?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's important to our company, Jamie. We're looking for people we can train in sales and marketing, ultimately with the goal of moving up into a management. So you do feel comfortable with that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. The last thing, Jamie, culture is very important to us. We like to have a good time. We play music in the office. We do team events, things like that. Is that okay culture for you?
I like quiet music. No, I'm just kidding. Bring it on. Bring on the loud music.
All right, good. Awesome, man. Well, good stuff. Well, hey, Jamie, I enjoyed our conversation. I'd like to do a face-to-face interview with you. What's your schedule looking like tomorrow?
I'm not working tomorrow. I'm free.
All right, we have an 11:30 tomorrow. It's about 45 minutes to an hour long interview. Would that work for you?
Where's your office?
We're in Belmead in Nashville, just west of Nashville.
Yeah, a little bit of a commute, but I think I could be there at 11 something,
11:30. Yeah.
11:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. And then I'll just give them the specifics on, I'll say, hey, I'm going to send you an email. It's going to have the address in it. Give them some tips on getting in my office. If you have any trouble finding us, there's a phone number in there you can call, or you can call me back on this number here.
Hey, can I ask you what the pay is real quick before I come in tomorrow? Or is it
So-
too soon?
All that's going to be, so here's, let me tell you about the things that are going to be, and actually, I actually say this too. So you actually beat me to the punch there. So there's 3 things that are going to be covered tomorrow, Jamie. 1 is the day in the life. 2, how the advancement structure works. And 3, we're going to go over how the compensation works. So all the questions you have about the position will be answered tomorrow.
Oh, great.
Okay, cool.
And-
Awesome, man. Well, hey, enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ricardo.
I was gonna say, you're not doing the second round, you're having one of your managers in the office do the second round that's able to break that stuff down for them?
No, I'll do the second too. If I mean,
You do the second too? Oh, okay.
no, I won't do all the seconds, but it's really depending. It's really depending on if I have someone in my office that is starting people. I mean, I think that you got to look at your recruiting funnel and see, have I given XYZ, I mean, this person 10 interviews and they haven't got anyone to start, you know? So
Yeah.
we waste a lot of resources on just giving people interviews. I mean, I've done that before. I'm like, oh, so-and-so hasn't got the last 20 interviews to start. Like, maybe I shouldn't have them interview anymore. If it's just,
You haven't lost anything from booking more of a prelim recruiter call to the second round and not kind of formally doing a prelim and then handing it off to a peer interview?
no,
Like,
I
it
mean,
sounded like you just said you're shortening the time of the funnel.
well, you are doing that, but I'm not saying I won't let another one of my leaders do an interview. It depends on their starting ratio. But yeah, I'm definitely shorting it down. And listen, I don't do this every day. I mean, I mean, I have 2 kids and a wife and coach baseball and everything else. It's not like I can be a full-time recruiter all the time. But I think that could you add 2 new seconds to your books by helping out with the recruiting in a week? You know, I mean, what if you did that every week and you had 8 additional seconds and got 1 or 2 new starts? You know, I think that's really the whole point of this call, is like, it doesn't take a lot to make a difference, you know? Plus, just getting in the trenches with your people. It's like your new guy or girl making excuses about the field, and then you go out there and crush 4 sales that day, and you're like, damn, the field is the field. The field's never changed. It's still easy to a top performer. I mean, a person that got an ownership.
Yeah, that's great. And kind of like how I framed it at the beginning, it's not like, you know, I'm suggesting you guys carve out additional time, although you could. I mean, you could carve out an additional, you know, 1 hour on Thursday, 1 hour Friday, but in your existing schedule, I'm just saying the people that are no call, no shows, you've already blocked off that time. What do you do at that time when people don't show up? You know, it's a good question. You guys may want to analyze that yourself and reflect on that. Like, oh, I guess I'm just watching YouTube videos when that happens, or whatever it is. All I'm saying is, you've got your recruiting hat on, keep it on, and just start digging. Just start digging. Look for gold. There is gold in those databases, or Indeed, or wherever your lure is, as JP puts it. But you know, if you can add 2 more second rounds showing weekly, you know, multiply that times 50 weeks. That's 100 more second rounds showing up over the course of the year that you did. Again, high probability shots. You're not going to invite in slouches. You guys have a better eye than your recruiter, chances are. I mean, what a drastic turnaround for your business. So I think this is great. In a couple weeks or a few weeks, I'm going to have Melissa White follow up, you guys. She's got a similar story to JP. Again, I really enjoyed Keys to Success and, you know, seeing everybody again. And I just heard a lot of stories of owners and consultants that just decided to take the law into their own hands, only because a lot of them just heard their recruiters talking about how hard it is. Oh, everybody's offering $20 an hour. It's hard to recruit. So they're like, okay, let me see for myself. Let me put the recruiting glasses on. And Melissa's got a pretty insane story for you guys, and she'll share some numbers of how many leaders she's added personally to her business. But again, very similar to JP, just took the law into her own hands, already had recruiting time blocked off anyway, just started pulling. and completely turned the business around. So any departing thoughts for us, JP, before we let you go? We totally appreciate you practice pitching with us and giving me a shot with your company, all that good stuff. But any departing thoughts for us?
No, I would just say I think it's honestly, if you haven't done it in a while, it's actually more fun than you even think about. It is. I mean, it is actually. And I think the most miserable times I've had in the business is when I was sitting around waiting someone else to do something that I knew I could do. Like, I mean, it's just, that's when you're just sitting around waiting for someone to perform in the field or waiting for someone to recruit for you. I think it's just, that's been the unhappiest I've been in the business. But when you take the law, like you said, the law into your own hands and like just do it yourself, and it tends to make the business a lot more fun.
That's great. Well said. Well, thank you, JP. I really appreciate it. I'll give you some feedback after I hear, a bunch of thoughts, but I think everybody really enjoyed that. So thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Ricardo, yeah, if you want to stay on here, I can add that into message.
Thanks a bunch, JP.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.